By nomadic sex worker.
Sex work encompasses a wide range of activities. So there are people who work on the street, we call them traditional, people who work on the internet, who just do webcams, sometimes striptease. In short, there are many ways to monetize one's sexualization, actually. I've been nomadic for the past 5 years, not staying in the same place for more than a month. So I'm constantly on the move.
I would like to know if it's a certain form of libertinism that led you to this prostitution.
I love sex, and I met a lot of people to have sex very early in my life. But I think even before that, I had a relationship with sex work that was very, very fluid, very open. I was actually very inspired by the activity. My first sexual experience was when I was 16, and at one point there was a guy who offered to pay me. And I went about it in a super fluid way, actually.
Where did you meet him? How did he propose to you?
For me, it was on the apps. Honestly, he didn't scare me. I realized this was the opportunity I had been waiting for. Well, the conversation went exceptionally well. He mentioned that we didn't need to go to bed since he was enjoying our time together, and I would still be compensated. I agreed, of course.
I told him.
No, but come on, let's go to bed, because I really wanted to sleep with him, actually. And
can you give us some elements on the pricing of your actions?
I have small menus. The first menu involves only talking, no sex, and costs 50 euros. There are various pricing structures, such as charging by the hour. There are people who charge per practice. 80 euros, it's a non-penetrative relationship, and 150 euros, it's when there is penetration, anal then. In summary, I have a fixed price list. If I can afford not to negotiate it, I don't negotiate, because actually the clients or the fake clients are always trying to get it cheaper all the time, all the time, all the time. And as an excuse, they will say, I can get this for 20 bucks. And I respond to them, but actually that's not okay at all. The person is in complete precarity and you are in the process of taking advantage of it. So just take it into account.
Has there ever been a client who left an impression on you and that you will never forget?
Yeah. I can tell you that one. Actually, I was in Germany. In Germany, it's stylish. I've had good times there. In fact, he was a submissive who's dominant, who was out of town, contacted me. The idea was that I would come to his place, read to him, and he wouldn't have the right to speak, and then I would leave with the money. And actually, it lasted 5 minutes. I arrived, did my thing, I saw that he wanted me to finish. I finished, took the money, I looked at him, said, good appetit, and I left. And it was great.
And what's the craziest request you've ever had made?
I was expecting it, to trash an apartment.
How?
Like that, like people. There was a guy who wanted to pay me to wreck his place, to pee in his place, to poop in his place. Really, to trash his apartment, it's not crazy, so I didn't do it, but actually could have been funny, like seriously, pocket the, but I wasn't comfortable, you know.
What type of client do you have?
Actually, there's no profile. In fact, it's people have of 23 to 70 years old.
Do you allow yourself the right to choose your clients or not necessarily?
For sure, if someone asks for something I don't offer, I won't charge them for it. I'm not going to do something I don't know how to do or don't want to do. Logical.
Are these people who are actually hiding their sexuality who do not accept it?
There are some who are married. There are many reasons people want to meet me. Some are openly gay, others are lazy to flirt. Some are simply intrigued by my profile and want to get to know me. Others can't find a good match, but with me, it clicks. People who are aroused late at night when I'm online. There really is a variety of profiles.
I read that it was illegal, but at the same time that it was taxable. So, how can you be illegal and taxable? If I tell you that I sell my stuff and declare it, that's exactly it.
In fact, it's not illegal to be a worker or sex worker. However, the clients are penalized, and you don't have the right to give advice. And you don't have the right to practice, in fact, if your clients are penalized. In fact, it's as if you're opening a grocery store, but no one has the right to enter. And you're supposed to declare yourself. I, for one, don't feel like declaring myself to a state that hasn't solved the problems of existing oppression, and furthermore treats us as less than human and fails to meet our needs. If one day the state meets our needs, provides documents, and fights against oppression, I will gladly pay my taxes. Feeling unwelcome in this reality, you choose not to participate. Yes, it's dangerous. We're in a reality that's killing my colleagues. The number of deaths, we almost don't count them anymore. It's so regular. I learned about someone's death yesterday. I learned about someone's death 3 weeks ago. It's a subject that is there, and almost in the community we are always affected, but we are almost anesthetized, in fact. Almost anesthetized to the limit, you know, because we're used to it, because we're aware of our reality. We will still be there to fight. And I also have a lot of hope, because between how society perceives us today and how society perceived us 5 years ago, there's already a huge gap. So in 10 years, we'll see where we are.
Has that ever happened to you? Once precisely to you, feel in danger?
Not directly, that is to say, it happened to me more. You see, we first exchanged virtually about what the person is looking for. I initially thought there were some guys who fit, but actually no. Him, I don't feel it, so I don't go.
But when you say you don't feel it, it's in relation to what exactly?
Well, he negotiates prices, he doesn't speak well, he doesn't send photos, he demands, he really has a kind of demanding and authentic attitude, and he talks like crap, you see.
The rather Anglo-Saxon countries, well, I think of Holland, a bit of Germany, where the status of sex worker is a status in its own right. And what do you think about it? Because obviously that's also up for discussion.
So you're talking to me about status and...
About legalization?
And actually about regulation. I think that's not what we need in today's society. Because the situation of all workers today, we are generally treated like crap, and that capitalism really needs to be changed, I think. And maybe we create a system that is based on the right to have access to what we choose to have access to in a fair way, just by existing and feeling, but we're not there yet. And today, if we move into regulation and if we legalize prostitution, what will it give? It will give brothels, potentially, where there will be 5 white girls who meet standard beauty criteria and 2 black girls for people who fetishize black girls. And so, no, overweight people, they are rejected. People without papers, they are rejected. Trans people, they are rejected. It's dead. We won't sacrifice the most vulnerable in our communities to conform to capitalism. On the other hand, we would rather decriminalize. First of all, let's stop bothering us. And then let's consider prostitution in a logical way, actually. To say there are people who do it out of financial constraint, there are many. Perhaps if we put a basic income, for example, people will no longer engage in prostitution. Perhaps if we give papers to people who ask for papers the same. Perhaps if we fight against transphobia and ableism, so the oppression towards disabled people. Perhaps the people concerned will no longer do sex work either. In fact, the real question we should focus on is, how do we create societies where prostitution can only exist in a healthy way and by choice? And we should focus solely on this question.
How do we differentiate a person who practices this profession fatalistically because they are a victim of it out of obligation, because it is also a stereotype that exists and I think is unfortunately true, and you who practice it by choice, etc. We don't differentiate it as we do
today, because today it's really very binary, it's very radical, it's very much the people who chose it on the internet and the victims of the street, whereas it's not at all. It's not 2 clans, it's not the street, it's poor and really not. There are people who are in danger, there are people who work indoors, and it's super dangerous for there are people who prefer to work on the street because it puts them less in danger, because there is no address, because there are a lot of things like that. There are people who have migration processes that are not necessarily passive victims at all, even who come from many different countries, who go through many different countries, and who have a really specific story. There are notions of human immunodeficiency virus, there are notions of transidentity, of racism, of anti-racism. It's extremely complex and interesting, especially for someone like me who's going to work as a perceived guy in the gay scene and another gay guy who also works as a perceived guy, and I don't have a relationship with a perceived guy. I'm not sure what that means with gender identity.
Ah, yes, perceived, to perceive. Yeah, perceived.
Like a guy who'll propose the same practices as me, we're not going to practice at all in the same way because we don't have the same relationship to sex, we don't have the same relationship to communication, we don't have the same relationship to others. In fact, we can't define prostitution as a whole. We can't essentialize it, actually, because we are all different.
Why is there such a big difference between the work of male prostitutes and the work of female prostitutes for you?
So from my perspective, from what I project, it's that already it's not the same relationships, actually. In a same-sex male relationship, there is no gender-based power dynamic. Because it's 2 guys. There can be other power dynamics in place. And between a guy and a girl, for example, there is a gender power dynamic. If it's a trans person who is working, there is a risk of transphobia. Transphobia is present. For people of color, racism is a risk. And generally there is racism. And so that it goes a bit in all directions, and it creates a lot of different realities, actually. For me, the homosexual story, we were rejected for our sexuality. So we had to live our sexuality in a hidden way. We created tools for that, including Grindr. And so it made access to sex easier. And generally when we flirt between guys, we look at each other, we look at each other, we
look at each other.
It's confirmed, we're going to hide, we're going to fuck, and we come back to our lives. You
see, and
we pay a guy less because we generally earn less money. I fear violence less than my colleagues, for example. For example, we can do what we call backups. In our communities, you warn a friend or a colleague, you give the number of your client and the address. That way, you're sure that if something happens, well, you have your backup behind. Actually, I've never done that. I've done that maybe once or twice in almost 9 years of activity. And I think it's really because in the environment where I work, going to a stranger's place to have sex, it's like going to buy a loaf of bread, actually. But there you have it. It really creates a lot of different realities, and even in your practices, if you offer domination, it's not going to be the same at all as if you work as a vanilla. So outside of bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadism, masochism, or if you only do cam, or if you only do strip, well, you see, it's very plural and diverse, you know.
If I tell you that you do it doesn't bother you.
Well, me personally there, no. But I would like to tell you, well, be careful, because with other colleagues, it can be violent, it can be hurtful, because we don't know, it's like the word fag, actually. If I say that I am a fag, there's 0% chance that I insult myself homophobically when speaking, whereas in the mouth of another person, well, we are never sure. And so for me, the word whore is the same. So saying SW sex worker, I think it's better.
Do you do this every day or not? Since you're your own boss, so you can work a little whenever you want, but how many hours approximately per week?
I would love to work every day. I have no dreams in France. And then in the gay community, really finding clients, you have no idea to what extent.
It is
a hassle. It's such a hassle. And then everyone can have free sex almost. So you really need a stroke of luck.
Have you ever had a conventional job? Metro, work, sleep?
Yes, I was a childcare assistant in Auxerre.
Is that so? Yes. What a radical change. In fact,
Not a change, because my first time as a whore, it was before I started in nursery. I worked in a nursery and as a sex worker at the same time. So it's really two different worlds. And at the same time, it went very well. I had a good feeling about the parents, honestly. But yeah, so I was a civil servant and all.
Have you ever come across someone where you say, yeah, hygiene, there, not at all? And like, how do you make him understand a bit? You tell him, yeah, wouldn't you like, let's take a shower together.
My colleagues do that. Me, I admit, I don't give a damn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because in addition, I have a little side that eroticizes everything that is smell and all. My colleagues constantly remind me that it's truly the foundation and is well known. They tell me, oh yeah, I actually send them to the shower. Because there are some, and it happens very often, like, just wash your dick, darling, actually. Like you see a whore, at least you see. If it's something you find erotic, express it. It's logical. Perhaps people are hesitant, and then cis guys sometimes, when you're in the mood, you can simply talk. Rather than getting to the point where, like, you know, it's not going to work, but it might work more by forcing it. Like, it's really a culture of non-consent that is just, we see it.
Has anyone ever asked you to poop on me or do pupilla?
Well, shit, I've been asked before, I haven't done it yet. Peeing for me is like going to buy a loaf of bread. I don't find it crazy. At the same time, I personally like it, so it's kind of natural. I've already, and this was too funny, been gently whipped with plants on tikka, and it was really stylish. Being tied up too. I've done fisting, but not with my clients, so it doesn't really count.
What is fisting?
Fisting is like inserting your entire hand into an orifice. It's quite intense. And I put both hands in if you want to know, but it wasn't with the client.
But then?
Maybe I'm training to offer it professionally when I feel my skills are at their peak, because I think there's a lot of that. People looking for it.
Considering we're in the post-acquired immune deficiency syndrome years, but the threat is still there, have you had friends who found themselves exposed to the disease or even to death?
Despite my human immunodeficiency virus diagnosis, I felt at peace because I knew that nowadays living with human immunodeficiency virus is very different than it used to be. So I imagine there's something about non-transmissibility and all that. Basically, I can sleep with people without a condom and not pass on human immunodeficiency virus to them. Yes, it gives you a viral load of the virus in the body. When you take your treatment properly every day at a fixed time, your load will decrease until it reaches an undetectable threshold. And from that moment on, you are not contagious. Official. Other options include small menus for tenderness without sex, €0 for an hour, and €250 for a night of tenderness. These are new menus that no one has yet. Ever taken before?
Yeah. Why? You think you contracted human immunodeficiency virus as a sex worker or during an intimate relationship?
I think I didn't specifically identify the person, but I know it was in the context of my work, but not for money, for accommodation. It was when I was in Spain, I was wandering around, so I was sleeping with guys to stay at their place. There was a time when I had symptoms of extreme fatigue and high fever. I remember being in Malaga on a bench, feeling like I was dying and wondering what was happening. I had completely drained my energy, and in fact, that was it.
Are you in a relationship?
Well, listen, that's a real question because I don't know. I'm starting a romantic relationship with someone I really like. And I won't be in a relationship because it will be more like, I, for one, am more into relational anarchy. So more multiple relationships without making them interact from a hierarchical point of view. But then the question, if I have romantic relationships that are being created, the answer is yes. Is there a notion of coming out of the profession? Do you have to announce it to loved ones? How does it go? Yeah, totally. And that there are a lot of people, well, first of all, it's very stigmatized, so there are a lot of people, on the contrary, who don't talk about it. Consequently, it can create a lot of isolation. Me, on the other hand, I'm more the type to wear it on my t-shirt. I don't see it, but...
Does the person you currently like know what you do?
So there's one who's a prostitute, so it's easy. And the other one who came in mode, listen, your prostitutions, it's never, I'm too judgmental, don't worry. Finally, you tell me and all, so she is perfect at that level. So great.
What? Great. And so how did it go? If it's not too private, you in, for example, the closest circle we imagine is the family. How is it?
My family was super cool. In fact, my father was directly behind me, but...
It's a chance.
Yeah, it's really a chance. Basically, he said, I understand when you talk to me about it, why you do it. I fully support you. My father is peaceful, but my mother was more afraid. I provide emotional support, explaining and clarifying things. Now, when I visit my mother and tell her I can't have dinner with her because I'm working, she just says okay to me.
Do you enjoy it when you sleep with these guys? Or is it really there tonight, I need to eat, I need to have a roof, so it's really because I can't find myself on the street, you see?
Since I left, I've already slept outside a few times, but you can count them on both hands. So pretty chill, you know? And there's still a very present sense of pleasure. I find a lot of pleasure in what I do. For me, it's like a casual fling. It might work out or it might not. Well, not where it breaks, but where it doesn't go as well, where we get bored.
Clearly, but in any case, I get paid. Since you make sex your job, there is a kind of trivialization of sex. So we normalize it, we desacralize it. Does your personal sexual relationship get affected? Is there a less... It slightly reduces the craziness and preciousness. You understand my point of sacred, for example.
For me, I can sanctify sex, even while being a whore. You see, there really is this thing about sex. Sex, it can be sacred, and it can also be so in my work. Mixing romance or attachment with sex scares me more, paradoxically. With my clients, I can put love into it because the framework secures me. I can go deep into sexual pleasure, share intimacy, tenderness, and sometimes even love. But I know it will only last an hour, 2 hours, or a night without the notion of attachment.
And so, since 2016, how many people have you slept with?
Oh no, I can't answer you, I don't know. I don't know. So wait, 2016, let's do...
A calculation slice.
I must have slept with 432 guys since 2016.
Oh yeah.
In life, one can have several lives. As I observe your career developments, do you envision yourself pursuing a different path? That is to say, what kind of evolution is there? Is there any kind of graduation in the world of sex? You take an exam. I'm a super...
It's more on the practical sides, I think. So I would really like to train myself in quotes to domination. And above all, I would really like to work really in therapy mode. So really mix the therapy and whoring side in a very...
I love, and so work, what is it? Help people to...
Sex therapists discuss intimacy from a distance, but this approach is more practical, focusing on the intimate details and getting straight to the point. It's about directly addressing what you want to work on within that intimate space, even if it's not immediately apparent. What can we co-create as a space?
Yes, like boutique and together, yeah.
And we co-create for the benefits
of the other.
And so it can be the first time with a person with a penis, or then reclaim your body or anything really in the intimate. And that's really the evolution of career that...
What do you think of people who think that speaking freely is glamorizing?
Oh, I made a post on Instagram not long ago. I think I'm already annoying them. Well, no, I'm not judging them. But damn if I can't talk about my job and the fact that I enjoy it without that. You say that I... Claiming that prostitution can only be defined in one way is not acceptable. I'm not glamorizing prostitution, just sharing my actual experiences in the industry. I think that people who say we're glamorizing prostitution are really just afraid that it will make the existing violence invisible, which I understand. In fact, we do not conceal the existing violence. It's as if when a colleague shared their experience with violence, we said, no, don't talk to me about that fight. Well, actually, no.
Experience that.
We are present and acknowledge the reality of our current experience.
It's a
It's not logical. It's not logical at all. But I think it's clearly an expression that comes from people who want to abolish prostitution and for whom it's politically a way to say shut up. We were born in a state where when you say the word prostitution directly, there is a discomfort directly associated with degrading stuff. So talking about it publicly is actually putting yourself in danger. But now it's changing. And instead of wanting to tackle prostitution, which will never actually happen, it just makes it more clandestine. Clandestine, we should focus on what can we do to create a society where all the people who practice this activity do it by choice and in a way healthy. That's the only thing on which we should actually...
How do you deal with the judgment and the way others look at you in your daily life? When does it manifest? How does it manifest?
The first sentence. Try to make 4 different versions. That way we can choose from the 4. Do you want me to tell it to you? Yes.
But I can do it. Shyly, so my name is Osmo. I am a sex worker. I meet people in real life, but first we diss the net, and I am nomadic. If I am here today to answer questions, there is a huge political interest. And in fact, I have even become beyond my exercise of sex workers activists, and I put my soul into activism. My life has completely changed. Is my duty to put energy into the destigmatization?
I think it's a really beautiful morality of what you're saying, because you're so comfortable that ultimately others become comfortable with you too.
Clearly me.
Yes, there is what I think a woman... I didn't have moments where I looked at myself in the mirror saying, I feel really lucky to meet someone who talks about their human immunodeficiency virus like this, about their job, which is completely taboo, about their homosexuality, about their non-binary identity. You tick so many boxes that you're not supposed to tick according to the big shots that I find it really incredible, and it's a wonderful life lesson, and I thank you for agreeing to meet me behind a paper.
Question to wrap all this up. If you had to imagine me physically, how would you visualize me? I admit that I've not made myself
A single image?
For me, the profession does not categorize a person's physique. I would say that you are between man and woman, but I see you. So I see you very tall. I don't know why.
I see you more as someone a bit more versatile with a gay charm, you know.
Who happens to wear some...
Yeah, so rather something where it's identified, but
Still.
physically in the norm, you know? There you go, there you go.
And in my opinion, therefore, you should be made up too.
You must be a colorful person. You must wear color. There I...
See a drag queen after all.
But I might be wrong, though.
Nice to meet you. I had more... delighted.
I put it for you.
To give you a little kiss?
When I was going into dreams, I wouldn't have had you for a guy who danced with me, get out of the trance. Oh, well, that's okay now.